Hello, hello to kings and queens and kings, building, dreaming, and creating fairy kingdoms. I'm just watching. I just found these guys on YouTube, and they're body language and body, interpretation experts, like from the military and from all over, and they're really, really good. There's four of them, and they look at a clip, someone being interviewed, or like an interview. I'm just watching the one with Elon and the BBC guy, and their comments on that, because I love it. I love to study what people are saying and how they say it, right? And you can see so much from the body language. Well, there's four experts, all reviewing and giving their comments. I've just found my next few days. Yeah, really cool, and they got lots of content. Amazing. Yeah, that's one of my interests, is just to watch people, to study people. Like I went to Perth, to the city the other day, or yesterday, and just I've been sitting out in the country for so long, and then so to go to the big city was lots of fun. I really enjoyed it, just to see all the different people. I just cruised around the malls in the city, and it was I thoroughly enjoyed it. Just sat and bought a coffee, worked a little bit on the dreams, the manifesto, and just watched people. Really fun. And so like find these guys. It's called I need to my eyes now. I need to actually put these on to read it. It says the behavior panel. 784,000 subscribers, so they're doing pretty well. And they even have like training and stuff. What a great idea! Like experts coming on and sharing their wisdom. Well, that's cool, and it's really important. It's great to be able to read people, because then you don't get in as much trouble, I guess. If you can see someone for who they are, then you're up front. Everything's how it is. I guess there's so much. The world is so full of like manipulation and just people trying to power games and struggles, and so I think it's important to know these techniques. And I actually wrote on my book today is to read the 42 Laws of Power again. It was one of my things to do, was to read 42 Laws of Power, because it's a really fascinating book on how the games of power are played and how manipulation happens. And like, you have to know your enemy, right? So to be aware of these techniques is important, because then you can see them if they're being used on you. If we're oblivious to these power games that the whole world is playing, like subtly, or like if you're aware of them, then you can put a stop to them in whatever way. Yeah, and sometimes it's good just to see something unfolding that way and just allowing it. But if you know, then you just, I always feel that with like deceitful sort of energies, or when you're playing those power games to get power, right? That it's ultimately like karma comes anyway. It's like you can't do that. You may get your temporary amount of fame, or you may get your temporary amount of power, but ultimately it will fall. And so the only true way to get power is through not seeking it. Because then those games don't come into it. Like, that's true power, I believe. That's true power. And I saw a quote. I watched June yesterday. Highly recommend watching June. Really good movie. And they're going to bring out June 2 in September. It's a really cool world. The whole world is pretty fascinating and amazing. It's very dark. Like, their world is dark world. You see, like, the emperor, and it's always in a very dark and very scary sort of environment. Like, to me, this whole idea of how, like, it's a form of programming that, like, this off-worldly civilization, another alternate reality. It's like the emperor. It's always dark, is what I'm saying. It's always dark. But I guess the story goes, it's the same story. You got the Atreides family, who is the light. They're the good guys. They're spreading light. They're fair, and they want to make things good for their people. That's the way I see it, the Atreides. And then whoever's ruling at the moment, the emperor, and that, like, they're part somehow different families or different bloodlines, but they're all fighting. It's like the Game of Thrones again. It's just this constant battle for hegemony. The benevolent and the malevolent fighting against each other. I wonder what, like, you see that in the Star Wars. Like, you got the rebels, and then you got the Empire. But we all want the rebels to win, because what are they fighting for? Freedom. They're fighting for happiness. Let's have fun around a campfire type of life, enjoyment. And they're the rebels. And it's always this rebels against the evil empire. What are they telling us? But yeah, it's the benevolent. And you like, the benevolent is who should be running the empire. This is the point. It doesn't always have to be the benevolent, but it seems to be in our history what we're told is it's always the benevolent are the ones in power. The conquerors, the ones wanting to. And that, maybe that's my belief. Maybe everyone has different ideas on what the history of civilizations were. Because I'm only coming from one angle, my stream of information that's come to me. Because unless you're there, it's very hard to know for sure what the civilizations was like. I mean, you could probably, like, how many prisons do they find? I mean, you could say maybe they just killed everyone. Like, it's how, because I always say a benevolent civilization would try to integrate people. They wouldn't try and kill people. They would try and integrate them and allow them to practice their culture. And those benevolent civilizations existed. And I believe, like, Genghis Khan and his empire was benevolent. He created the biggest empire ever, all the way to almost Japan, and all the way to Europe. Like, they went on the borders of Europe, and they had battles with, I think, the Hungarians. But the thing is that in the kingdom, what was the kingdom like? Like, we're not told. but I believe it was benevolent. The thing that with Genghis was, if you allowed him to be ruler, but you could still be the ruler of your like little area. Like he wanted, I believe he wanted benevolency. He wanted light. He wanted culture and creation in his culture, and there's really great examples of that. But if you didn't want to join that, so you may have been malevolent in some ways, then there was you had an option. And I don't know, like you hear that they killed all the people. This is what you hear. He's also called ruthless, and like, I question it. I question him. He's only challenging the leadership. The people have got nothing to do with it. They just want peace, right? Why would he kill all the people? And this goes back in history. I don't understand why someone would go in and totally wipe them out unless you wanted to rid them their whole civilization. Genocide. But you're way better off keeping the people and assimilating them into your culture, your kingdom. Like just allowing them to do their thing, but the leadership is different. Some of the customs overall are because they're for the upliftment of everybody, then they get accepted. Yeah, you're not going to kill all the people in the kingdom you just conquered, because there's valuable people. They're valuable for your kingdom. Like that's just one reason why you wouldn't do it. For another one is, why would you? Why do you need to? Like it's even in those times, I believe it still was a big thing to kill somebody. Like it wasn't taken lightly. It was probably taken more seriously. And so I can't understand. I don't think we were as barbaric as we're led to believe. And I believe that people were given a choice. Now, there is issues with, like, maybe the Babylonians and these benevolent, I think cultures that did slavery, that's not good. That's not a positive. That's not a light based around your society. It's like, there's not light there. It's a dark practice, slavery. And so that type of society, I don't think is, and you could probably even see that in with the Mongols. Like, I believe Genghis was for benevolency, for light, bringing culture and peace and harmony to his people. And then, so you could see the people he did attack were usually the Muslims. He wiped out Baghdad, so they say, so they killed everybody. I don't know. That's, maybe he did, because I know they had sent missionaries to Baghdad, and the Sultan had cut their heads off and sent the heads back, thinking that the Mongols could never get across the desert to Baghdad. And yeah, he was wrong, and he really impacted the Muslim empire, I believe, in a negative way. Like, supposedly it was at its peak at that time with the Sultan of Baghdad, and he basically squashed that civilization. But it was the civilization was not all good, because there was slavery, and the treatment of women was not amazing, right? So where I believe Genghis and his way was more fair and equality for all. And there's little snippets of history. Like I haven't delved deep into Genghis Khan, but I heard one snippet where he had sent a letter to a sage in China, asking if he could come and visit Genghis, because Genghis wanted to learn more about the way, the Tao. And he wrote this beautifully penned letter to this guy, and this guy traveled to Mongolia to teach him. So, like, to me, that means that Genghis was a spiritual man, and spiritual men are not gonna kill unless, I guess, it's this attack on the benevolency and malevolency. This type of that. So, yeah, I'm fascinated because Genghis his burial site hasn't been found. And I just can't wait until that's found. And I guarantee there'll be some amazing riches, and so much history that we've lost will be there. Yeah, so start manifesting Genghis Khan's tomb, because that will. I believe a lot of the information has just been wiped about these guys, and then it goes into, like, you hear about Tartaria, but the Mongols had that civilization, and they grew into the Tartarians. Like, that's not a common knowledge. But who are the Tartarians? You get little snippets, but it's like their civilization just disappeared in the 1800s. Like, I don't even know if the Russians talk about them. It's just like, who talks about them? I don't know. But yeah, there's some really interesting, like they had their own particular architecture. They like to build buildings in domes. And there's even saying that there was a few buildings throughout the Western world were built by the Tartarians and using their architecture and design. But then some of these buildings have been demolished since for, unknown reasons. Fascinating. I just went on a real rabbit hole there. A real rabbit hole. Yeah, I want to know more about history and forgotten history, lost history. There must be so many civilizations we don't even know about, because they just got maybe the ruler, the guy who defeated them, just wiped it clean. No more knowledge of that civilization that lasted for 300 years. And the amazing things that they did, and they're like just all gone. But how do you know for sure? Like a book doesn't explain a culture. You think about the Encyclopedia Britannica. It's got so many topics and words and so much information, but it really doesn't give you the gist of things. But I guess it'd give you a pretty good idea. If we had a Britannica for each civilization, that would be really cool. But then ultimately you need a whole YouTube box full of all the content of the culture to start to really understand, like, our culture now. Yeah. So really the only way is to just be there and live it. Yeah, we're living in good times. Like, finding these guys on the I watched the Elon Musk interview with the BBC guy with fascination. Like, it was really good. Really good. And so it's really nice to see or to listen to other people's opinions on that interview, because it was just very juicy with behavior patterns and Just wow, yeah, it was really. I felt sad for the reporter. He's just way out of his league, but didn't know it. That I guess that's the problem for him. He tried to challenge Elon on, yeah. I don't know what he was thinking. What was he thinking? Let's just go out. Like, don't try and challenge Elon Musk. Just be his mate. Yeah, I guess he was trying to big note himself. So you meant getting Elon Musk's scalp. Yeah, but it certainly, I feel sorry for him now. I know that he'd be the pariah. Just like not the pariah, sorry, the laughing stock. Yeah, but the laughing stock from a ego perspective. It's like his ego got like shattered. Total shatter. You could imagine him having to, like, everyone knows who he is now, and he's that guy with that interview. That's like a freaking tragedy. But he will come out of it, I'm sure, with a lot of lessons. But I wonder how he's being treated at work now. Like he was like the head of the entertainment area at BBC in the US. Yeah. I would like a follow-up to see how his life's been since then. Because, like, in some ways there was karma there because of the way he was interviewing Elon on the attack. He got his karma. Like, he was trying to dig holes, or like, in Elon, who I believe is very light. He's a very honest guy. He's just honest. And so the reporter was using manipulation techniques or some sort of like negative reporting, like questions, to get for an attack. And it was interesting to see Elon respond and how he responded. And yeah, he did pull out the devil fist a couple of times in a really beautiful way. He's like, dear sir, I believe you don't know what you're talking about. Like, that was like gold. Nice work, Mr. Elon. But yeah, isn't it? Like, this is the thing that, like, me, and the people who want to change the world, like, we need to understand these body languages, and we need to understand these the interactions of humans, like and just to understand all the different varieties of human. There's so many, and it's really cool. It's beautiful. Like this, it's a beautiful thing to see people, different personalities, different characteristics, different traits. Yeah. So, and to see, I guess it's also important to see those personality and emotions come up in conversations. And to me, what it tells me, in, like, especially with these interviews, and it's just be light. Just be like, don't lie. Don't tell it. Just tell the truth. Be light. And be happy. Manipulation techniques or standover tactics, or I don't know, anything. It's just, you've got to be really good at it, but you will always fail. It'll always come back and bite you, and that's the karma, right? You can be an egomaniac, and you can get away with a lot and move a lot, but eventually it will get you. Where it's just easier. It's more fun just being light. And just, it's just easier to tell the truth. And it's easier to, and that's, like, there's sometimes in the past where I've withheld truth because I didn't want, it was uncomfortable to talk about. Yeah, so like, I think it's just good to just be truthful and let people deal with it. People then have to deal with it. And that's the easier, that's the light way. Just have fun, be happy. Like, that's like upliftment, love, joy, bliss, connection, like all these things. Like that's what you focus on. Yeah. Wow, look at that. I just talked for 26 minutes, almost unstopped. I don't think I had too many stops. Now I'm like, okay, I'm going to put this interview on. Have a listen. Hopefully we don't get copyrighted. I don't think they'd mind, actually. See if we can get this going. This is the interview. Where's the speaker?
Let's say, like, I think the analogy is pretty close. Like, let's say, it's like there's a warehouse full of goods. They say the warehouse, less than 5% of what's in the warehouse is broken. And then you walk into the warehouse and say, actually, it's 25%. So you might still want to buy what's the...
I left the kettle on.
Probably at a low price. Not just buying the stuff that's broken.
So you didn't have an epiphany, you just thought, I'm gonna have to buy this, I might as well buy the bullet.
Yeah.
So then you walk in...
It's not super complicated. Right.
I'm not sure you've said that before.
Oh, fair enough.
So then you came into
Cue a whole bunch of court cases. You said this in the BBC interview, etc.
All right, Chase, what do you got? Elon's behavior in this clip is his baseline. And it's the same behavior you'll see on Joe Rogan. It's the same behavior you'll see when he's hanging out with somebody doing a different interview. He's commonly making these little adjustments with his shoulders in many cases, and this is usually social discomfort when you see it. Elon's already acknowledged publicly that he has Asperger's syndrome, and some of the most common behaviors associated with that are difficulty in social settings and repetitive behaviors like you're seeing here in this clip. The reporter's genuinely trying to manage every movement of his body here to control his anxiety and his stress on camera. And this is something that people tend to go through as well when they start learning body language and nonverbal communication skills. I know I certainly did. And there's a tendency to overanalyze everything, including yourself, and then overmanage everything. And this quickly becomes exhausting. And I think most people find this transition point where they just finally let go and take off the handcuffs of kind of worrying about the perceptions of so many people. And people learning body language tend to think everyone else knows what they know. Truth is, 99% of people have nothing even resembling a clue about most of this stuff. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, this is really an interesting one. And Chase,
I know you want to
to
keep listening.
This is his
These
baseline.
guys
I
are
think his
amazing.
baseline is fairly complex. I think, like most folks,
I highly recommend them.
he has a
So, yeah, talking about. What do you want to talk about? I watched the SpaceX Starship launch, and that's a really interesting, like the whole project, the engineering behind it, the excitement of the people. Like everyone, like I heard Elon say once about it's when humanity needs to have something to dream about. And I agree with him. Like, and that, like, there's a lot of negative sort of criticism of why would we want to go to Mars when we haven't sorted out our own planet. And yeah, fair point. It's like, what are we doing to fix our own planet? Because it's not just Mars. It's we could be putting focus everywhere to fix our own planet. We could be planting billions of trees, and we could all be doing things to help make the planet better, right? But what it's done is it's given us something to dream about, and that is essential for humanity. Like, he gave us something to dream about with electric cars, and now with rocket ships, and it just drives human evolution. And I think it's an essential part of us as humans. We have to have hope for something, and that hope will get us through so much. But if we're hopeless, then, you know, it's like, it's game over if we have no hope. And I know the power that be know that. They're aware of that. And so, like, I feel like our hope is being destroyed. Our hope, yeah. Viktor Frankl in The Man's Search for Meaning talks about the essentialness of hope, because you needed to have hope, which gave you a will to survive. And the survivors were usually ones who, like, they were a family that they wanted to see. They had something that was holding them on to life. There's just this hope, will to be able to have something. Like, and you see, when you give up on hope, when you have no more hope, what do? People just die. There's a perfect example of that in the millennia, like 2000. It's a big milestone for people to survive to the millennia. And there was a reduction in deaths on the way up to 2000. And then there was a big increase after 2000. And that's hope. That's like, I've got a will to live for. And it was seen in the death rates. So yeah, that to me is the Starship. Is that it gives us hope for our human race, which is an essential part right now because of the shittiness that's happening in the world. Seems to be more instability happening than, and like, we have the dream of civilization is for it to just go on forever in a harmonious way, and evolution and you evolving, and your new technologies and just better stuff for your people. Build more beautiful spaces. Like, what is the reason? Why are we here? What are we doing? What's the point? What is it? What is your hope for this life? And so for me, my hope is to live in a harmonious, loving family. That's what I want my children around me. I want to be in love and create loving spaces for my family. And that's where that drive was always for building a community, was to build a space for my family where they could be supported and loved. Because I grew up where there wasn't, my mum and my sister passed away, and my dad has always been estranged, so like I don't have family. So it was like, and then, so yeah, I had to grow my own family. And yeah, that's my drive. Hope to see the sunrise and the sunset. Like I went for a beautiful run on the beach tonight, and it was like tropical paradise. It was so still down there. It's like, wow, yeah, it was like a dream. Really was it like a dream down there. And that's what I hope for. And just peace, love, harmonies, and 99.9% of the world wants the same thing. So yeah, thank you, Elon, for the hope and the technology and like bringing amazing people together. Like the way like the excitement that SpaceX is generating for the people in it. I know they work them pretty hard, but you know, it gives these guys their passion. They get to design rockets and go to Mars. Like what that's. You think of how many nerds, like wet dream that is. Just boffins. So you could imagine just the vibe in the SpaceX headquarters, and then I hope Tesla as well. Like I hope Elon's looking after his employees. I know he's probably having to be dream it and actually make it happen in this world. Like that's the challenge. We can all dream, but it's making it happen. And it's so how do you make it happen? Is the manifesting skill. And he has the ability to do that. Like he's got that. He obviously has a way with people. He can pick people. He can pick the right people, because he can't do it all. His role is to put the right people in place and align it in the right direction, and then he lets it go, and he's sort of involved in the design and the direction of the company and the cars and like that. So he's involved in the direction, and he's also now like a king of his companies. So he's like a figurehead. Now he's doing more media. He's on Twitter. Well, he's the he's the king of that world, of our world, which is that, like he's influencing so many people, like so many kids. They call it STEMs. Is it science, technology, engineering, and materials? STEM, science, technology. Oh, I can't remember. Someone will electrical, STEM, science. Anyway, those kids would be so excited about that, and so it's worthwhile to me. And who knows what technology we get out of it? Who knows what connections, what offshoots from the business? Two people met at SpaceX, and then they think of designing a new something to make the world better. There's like just the opportunities at such an industry. Yeah, wow, really cool. I saw a YouTube video of a guy who had been interviewed on the news who had worked at SpaceX, and he had said that it required a lot of work, but very exciting. And he was comparing it to working with NASA and just the speed at which the SpaceX were able to redesign things. Well, NASA's got all these different contractors, and so to change something, you've got to go through all these change processes, and like it's just very slow. Where SpaceX have streamlined all that, the design, like they're up revving things all the time. Total revisions. And I heard a SpaceX engineer say that like this sort of failure to destruction is a good thing, because it tells them so much about the design. But they've always got another, like after Starship, I think they said maybe 3 months, but maybe not now. I saw there's a video or a photo of the launching site where basically a huge crater where the rocket took off. It just destroyed the concrete. And you can see in the launch, there's so much debris and smoke and things going everywhere. Like, they say the launch site's pretty badly damaged. Yeah, I don't know how we got onto Elon. But yeah, he's one of my heroes. Yeah, it's nice to have trailblazers out there shining the light. Like, we're using Starlink here at the moment. It's like in the middle of nowhere, and we've got this technology that's just suddenly opened up to the possibilities of podcasting and live streaming, and just like dream for this place was to have office, all like desks all around here, and just have it's a media hub and doing video and doing all sorts of, just having lots of creative people in here, like a little media space. Yeah, but it's nice. It's a really nice room. I've dreamt up my podcast studio. I didn't know that this would be the final, this current resting place of the podcast. But I quite like it. I got lots of nice pictures, and yeah, I could spend all day in here. 41 minutes. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more of the video on. Because I had the kettle boiling for 30 minutes. And it was dry. So I got over there just in time. Alright, let's have a listen.
Something he has to think about. And that baseline is his steep wing sitting there waiting, and then he'll start to speak and use his hands and do all of that. We're going to see later that when he is forced to think, he has a very different baseline and is very consistent. So we're going to look for baselines when he's doing one thing versus doing the other. All humans do it. We all have different things, and that's how we create a strung together baseline for the entire person, not simply little snippets. So we're going to see a snippet here, a snippet there, and we'll string together what's normal. There's another interesting thing. When you are the 800-pound gorilla, when you are the alpha, other people emulate your behavior. Think of Trump and all the people doing this around Trump. There's something really weird about that when you happen to be non-neurotypical and you do odd things. You can even get to a point that other people are copying you because it's innate in us. The four of us have body language that's similar because we're part of a culture. And wherever the 800-pound gorilla is, folks are going to emulate his behavior. So it gets really odd when it's a non-neurotypical. I'd love to watch meetings with this guy. We're going to see some unique body language as he goes through this. Here as he's starting to think, he's doing normal kind of what we would consider normal gesturing, illustrating as he's bringing up facts about business. He's lockstep in his cadence, his illustrators, everything's aligned. We call that congruency. And you've seen this in other interviews in the past with him, but when he's uncomfortable, he'll jump up in the chair and do other things.
Just listen to the techniques that they're referring to, like cadence, the way he's speaking, the speed, just all these different techniques, or descriptions of personality traits or mannerisms. There's so much to these guys that really know what they're talking about. Seems that way anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna listen a little bit more. Maybe I'll jump in at times.
Emotion, I think it's related in this case to the autism rather than to the actual message he's trying to send, because he's so free in his gesturing and his illustrating. When he goes to no-brainer, watch his hands. He does the same thing we all do. That's a no-brainer. Touches the side of his head, and then starts to joke about cueing the court cases. Let's watch this interviewer. Now we know what his pitch, tone, and cadence are normally because he's pretty fluid here. Boom, boom, boom. He's illustrating in front of himself. He's illustrating even with his finger. He's illustrating and making his points. Wait until he...
Tell me that's just not amazing information. Like pitch, tone, cadence. Like he's totally analyzing Elon and the reporter. Yeah, a lot of juicy wisdom in there. If you're interested in that type of thing, like I think it's very important that we have these abilities of reading people and understanding people It should be what we learn in school, actually. That would be good. Let's learn that in school instead of having to learn it from the school of hard knocks. Ah, well, but it wouldn't have made us who we are now, right? So we've learned all that wisdom on the way. But yeah, if we had to learn it in school, maybe we didn't have to learn the hard way. I'm not sure. Some say that it's better to learn the hard way because you get more out of it. But I think it's possible to learn from other people's wisdom so you don't have to learn the hard way. And if you're wise enough to be able to learn from someone else's wisdom, so you don't have to learn the hard way, that's like, yeah, there's wisdom in that. And you have to reach a certain point of wisdom to be able to learn without having to learn. I know that, like, a great example is skiing down a ski hill. Like, if you haven't skied down a ski hill, like, I could tell you, because I saw it on a movie as how it's done, I could tell you how to ski down a ski hill, and I could experience it. I've never skied down a ski hill, but I've seen it in a movie, and I tell, like, you've never done it yourself, so if you've done it yourself, that's wisdom. If you haven't done it, but you've seen it or heard about it, read in a book, then it's knowledge. That's a good, I like to differentiate between the two. Experience is wisdom, and reading about it or hearing about it or thinking you know about it, but you don't actually have ever experienced it, that's knowledge. And I wonder, the school of hard knocks allows you to know the wisdom. Does it mean you have to go through the hard knocks? Or is it possible to not have to go through the hard knocks? That is my question to the world. I'm going to ask that on Twitter. That's a great one. Hey, Twitter. Yeah, cool. I like topics like that. I should write it down. Okay, I'm going to put some more on because of my kettle, and then I'll be back.
Until he gets under stress and watch some of this change. This will be a really good example of what baseline looks like in one person and another, and which one's feeling the most stress. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. So very specific and important, and it comes from this phrase of in business of never be a forced seller. Well, Musk here is a forced buyer. He's being forced to buy this company by the courts, and we see him brace himself, go from relaxed to braced when he starts talking about having to buy Twitter, being forced by the courts, because it's just an absurd situation to be in, because it's the exact opposite of the forced seller situation. It's the forced buyer situation. In a business sense, it's an absurdity. I think that's where the humor comes for him. We'll hear him later talk about the idea of absurdity, and absurdity and humor is a way more kind of European idea, way more German, way more Dutch kind of style, and potentially more neurotypical for him, absurd humor. So I think that's it is his baseline, but I think that's where he finds the humor, the opposites in there. I was watching an episode of Ted Lasso. It was, I think, the first episode of the second season. There's somebody says in that he's not being rude, he's being Dutch. So understand, different, and Musk comes from a Dutch Pennsylvanian background, English background as well. So South African as well, again, links with the Dutch as well. So we're going to get an English, Dutch, absurdist kind of world from him, as well as his neurotype as well, enjoying that kind of scene as well. So I think that's why we get this succession of laughter from him. Now, he spins that into it's not super complicated. His opposition here, Clayton, says but I'm not sure you've ever said that before. And Musk concedes on that. Fair enough. So I think in debate sense, I would say James Clayton actually kind of wins that little bit of that argument there by Musk conceding that he's never.
Yeah. Super interesting topic. I'm going to look into it way more. Human behavior. I never did a study on it. I did engineering, which wasn't much about human behavior. But human behavior is really a fascinating thing to understand. So I haven't been following what's been going on in the world. I have been dreaming of sustainable communities, especially the one in Western Australia, and dreaming a lot, which I guess watch this space. I'm quite excited. But I guess I've been learning about so some of the things I learned in history recently is about King Arthur and the knights of the 12 knights of the Round Table and Camelot and it was meant to be after the Romans left, which is like 400 AD. So you got to remember, like, this is after Jesus Christ, which, you know, Christianity would have been moving through England and talking about Jesus. At that, the Christianity. Before that was pagan, I believe, but sorry, just getting the butter off my moustache. This is what I'm starting to understand. My understanding of history is a lot of the history is all about the kings and queens and the bloodlines and the battles between. It's like one taking over another and another empire being created, and new kingdom, and then this kingdom fights this kingdom. It's over 1,000, 2,000 years, and a lot of that happening. But it's all about the story of the line of the kings and queens. That seems to make a difference, because you get the right bloodline, and then there's peace and harmony, or more peace and harmony. There's a direction of malevolency, or benevolency. There's a direction of a particular dynasty, and then that dynasty moves or changes, and then another one, and it all sort of flows with the bloodlines. And it seems like it's way more important part of our history than we even could imagine, or we knew in the past. Like, you don't talk about the barbarian tribes having a bloodline of leaders, but they did. The kings of Norway and Sweden, they were all like a particular group of rulers, this bloodline that they were trying to keep. And that meant that they were good rulers. This is what I interpret it as. They were the rightful rulers. And that was their job. Like, I love this. I saw today, or recently, Ich Diem was the catchphrase of a couple of kings. It's actually the catchphrase now of the Charles, the Welsh Ich Diem, or means I serve. And so that was the job spec of a king and queen. I serve the people. And that's been twisted from our minds in this current age. It's very much, the kings and queens have been bastardized and you just got to look at the content in the media about how there's very few positive king and queen movies. You know, the best movie I've seen about kings and queens, without all the hype and bullshit, is Troy. Troy is like such an amazing movie because it shows a battle of the mind between the king and Achilles. And it's actually showing a king who was not the rightful king. He was chosen, somehow got there, but he was not of divine right. He wasn't. His heart was not light. He was a bad man. He was seeking power and power and pain. Yeah, he was seeking notoriety, to be known, to be remembered. And I guess you could say Achilles was also wanting to be remembered. But what the thing with Achilles, though, was he was admired by his men, by his people. They all loved him. Like, he would have been the perfect king. That's what kings are. They're to be admired by the people. And Achilles would have been the perfect king, but he was not in the rightful. He hadn't been given that power as king, but he was the rightful one. To me, that was a positive story on kingship, because that interaction would have happened a lot, I would imagine, over the few thousand years. But yeah, some of the, I don't like the. I would like to think, and my gut feel is that the kings and queens were respectful, and they were kind. Like, if they're kind to their people, they're also kind. It flows all the way down from the people just below them, and it all the way down. And I was reading about King Arthur and Camelot, and that's really interesting, because the story is, after the Romans left, they found this period of where King Arthur actually had conquered a lot of Europe as well. That was new to me. But he was known for his extravagance. He was a gift giver. He was always giving and having big banquet parties and celebrations, and in giving away a lot, celebrating life. Hello, Mango. Come to say hello. Yeah, he was renowned throughout the world as putting on, just bringing people together and having a good time. And his court was renowned. And that's the type of kings and queens I think we all need to start dreaming about. Those courts. It's possible. It's there. It's in our history. That's Mango's doing a bit of ASMR with his tail on the mic. Hello, mister. So, I went to this big city. Hello, my friend. Hello, my friend. You can't see him. There we go. We can see Mango's head. I just talked down a little bit. Yeah, so, and then the renown of King Arthur's court was then talked about forever after. It was strived for by the kings and queens that followed. With this where there was harmony, and he was a great man. He was a great man, and he was admired by all. So there's a little bit of information, but it was so long ago. But yeah, I found that interesting. I also talked about, have you heard the, I'm going to bring it up, Old King Cole. Old King Cole, he was an Anglo-Saxon king. King Cole, let's look it up. King Cole. King Cole. So everyone knows the King Cole Mario rhyme. Everyone knows it. It's very... It says it was a ballad in the 1708, first attested, but King Cole was actually a king of the Anglo-Saxons. And this is a rhyme that's come from him. But what it does is it tells you a little bit about his personality. He wasn't like a grumpy old bastard. This guy, Old King Cole, was a merry old soul. And a merry old soul was he. He called for his pipe, and he called for his bowl, and he called for his fiddlers three. Every fiddler he had a fiddle, and every fine fiddle had he. Oh, there was none so rare and can compare with King Cole and his fiddlers three. Like, and here's another one, King's version. Good King Cole, and he called it for his bowl. Nah, this is not as good. Someone's messed with this one. Yeah. Identity, yeah, Colhen. Colin, right? Colhen? He was a Welsh king. Translated Old Cole. Old King Cole. Sometimes leads to speculate that he or some other Cole in Roman. He's, yeah, 4th century figure. Thus Colhen. Colin, right? Colin, Colchester. Old King Cole. So anyone who's named Colin, it's after King Cole. And then the rumour, which I feel is true, a legend that King Cole of Colchester was the father of Empress Saint Helena, and therefore the grandfather of Constantine the Great. Yeah, it's been a couple of Historia books from the past, but the Romans have claimed Constantine for themselves. They would hate to think, or hate for anyone to know, that Constantine the Great was of English mother. It's the story goes that Constantine's father was stationed in Britain and met Helena, who became a saint by the Roman Catholics and has a bit of a history with Constantine. But yeah, she went back to Rome with Constantine and participated in that world. Yeah, you look into it, because the other Helena she was born on the other side of Rome, and the interesting thing is that she was just born to a maid, or they say low class, but not of the ruling class. But Constantine's father was the head of the English Roman Empire, I believe. So he wouldn't have, it's unlikely, not saying he wouldn't, it's more likely that he would have married into this, like another bloodline. Like, this is how it worked. This is, I almost feel guilty saying that keeping the bloodlines pure, or whatever you want to call it, but then that's like, that's yucky. So, keeping the ruling bloodline together to create the best rulers. Yeah, that gets you in trouble when you start talking that way. But it's a difficult one, because there's no one is to be upset, really. It's just, maybe that's the way it is. Who knows? But I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, Colin. King Cole, which I like it because it tells you his personality. It tells you what his court was like. This is the type of courts you want of kings. Like, and I find it fascinating. Like the royal family don't even have a court. They're like really quite boring people. I mean, I guess you got to have a court if you're making decisions. But why not have a king's court? And you create this like really awesome atmosphere. But it's spiritual. You have lots of artistic people. Cool. You have, yeah, it'd be like, sort of like wanted to build here in the Mindful Earth. Spaces where people could just have a really good time. So that would be the king's court. But yeah, the royal family don't have that. How tragic. For all of them. That's one thing I noted I watched, so those guys did a review on Prince Harry in his interview with the American guy, grey-haired guy. And yeah, you gotta watch it. But what I could see is like Harry hasn't had a lot of like he hasn't been educated to speak. Like, and he's got trauma. He's got a lot of trauma that he hasn't dealt with, and it's like he's just been on his own. It must be a lonely life living in those big castles, and then and what it is being so fearful that someone's going to see you fart and it gets on the newspaper the next day. Because that's what Harry said that blew my mind, is that every morning they had all the newspapers out for the breakfast. Like, I couldn't think of anything worse. Like, they were looking for articles on, how's the message of the royal family. To me, what a nightmare to live in that world. Because I would imagine with fame, like the only way, you cannot listen to the trolls. Like, you know who you are. You know who you are, and that's all that matters. And so to read someone's interpretation of you can really do damage if you're not ready for it. And that's what the guys said about Harry, is he's got cracks. He's not healed. Like, he's got some shit going down because his mother got, killed prematurely, and he never dealt with it. No one ever helped him. He's probably not allowed to befriend anybody. Hey, Mango. Because of the risk of secrets getting out. He's got no one to talk to. Jesus. The poor guy. So he never healed, and then he's got cracks, and then living in this world. Holy shit, the world he's living in. With no tools, or very few. Like, that's what Diana, I heard, say. Like, Diana was trained, she was a Spencer, she is from the royal sort of grounding, but she was joyful and happy, and like, that would have been such a loss to lose Diana out of that royal family. They would have felt the huge change in everything after Diana died. That would have been a turning point, I'm sure. Yeah, it would have been a big turning point for the boys. And then, it's, wow. I never knew what had been going on with the royal family. I just been looking into it today. There's some pretty wild stuff, like with Diana, but then with Camilla, and like what Harry was saying about Camilla is trying to win back the public, so she will do whatever she can to get good newspaper articles, which meant leaking stuff about Harry. That's what she said. That's what he said. And I'm like, what type of world when you can't trust your father's mum, your stepmom. Your stepmom is destroying the internal fabric of the family, and Dad didn't see it. Dad created it. And then another notable point I heard was Harry said that, like, William, when they were at school together, William didn't want Harry to hang out with him, which I thought was such a sad as well, because his two royals, they're unique, right? Like, they could be a great team together, but William didn't want to have anything to do with Harry. Like, so for me that was sad, because really you want to build that mateship between the two of them. Anyway, and like the name of the book, Spare. God, what a disaster. Poor Diana. But yeah, there's still always hope. There's always hope for the world. Like I see that. I guess what it means though is that the current family of royals is not the right family. Like Divine Right, the hearts have been weighed, and they're not coming up to speed. They need to be people that we adore. Grace Kelly, they need to be beautiful souls, like angels. So you want them to be almost like their wings hanging like from behind them. Like why not? Why not? Like I think it's possible, and I think it doesn't have to be like the Kardashians. Like, you can have wise, educated, cool as shit